the case against Nick Reiner, who is now charged with murdering his parents, Rob and Michele Reiner. New information from the Los Angeles Medical Examiner's Office as it returned the bodies of the director and his wife to their family on Friday. Nick Reiner is now expected to be arraigned on January 7th. Here with us now is legal analyst Kelly Hyman. Kelly, always good to see you. This case is just so disturbing. We just heard from the DA. How likely do you think it is that this does become a death penalty case?
The death penalty right now is uncertain, and here's why. He has been charged with first-degree murder with special circumstances, and special circumstances heightens the penalty. And what that means is, because of the special circumstances, that the penalty was life in prison without parole, so he would spend the rest of his life in prison, or the death penalty. But first, he would have to be convicted of the charges. So it's uncertain right now if, in fact, this will be a death penalty case.
The arraignment, like I mentioned, is now scheduled for January 7th, about 2.5 weeks from now. During his court appearance earlier in the week, Nick Reiner waived his right to a speedy arraignment. Why would a defendant choose to do that, Kelly?
To look at the totality of the circumstances. The defense position is that this is a complex case and there should be no rush in the judgment. Now, it's important to remember that in a court of law, you are innocent till you're proven guilty, but also have time to speak with his client, to weigh the options for a plea, potentially, or also to figure out what exactly that's going to be, whether guilty, not guilty, or not guilty by reason of insanity, and also give Nick time to be evaluated by a doctor in order to make a determination on what to plead.
And the defense attorney from the very beginning has said, to your point, this case is very complex. It should not be met with a rush to judgment. What is he alluding to here?
He is alluding that people should not make up a determination that he, in fact, is guilty, that not rushing to judgment, to really give time to consider all the factors of exactly what happened, because we're learning evidence slowly as it's coming out. And so it's really important, as a defense attorney, he wants to figure out what is going to be his strategy. He also wants to see what evidence the prosecution has so he could fully advise his client the best way to proceed going forward.
You mentioned those special circumstances a moment ago to the charges against Reiner. There were multiple murders here. There was a dangerous weapon used. What impact, and you alluded to this a moment ago, but if we can dig a little deeper, what impact do these enhancements have on the case?
They significant in regards to the penalty of the charges of the crime. So what that means is, because it's heightened, then death penalty is on the table, that is possible for him to be convicted and have the death penalty. But it's also important to remember that in a trial, first they have to prove, in fact, that he is guilty, and then the next stage is, in fact, the penalty stage of it. Now, if he does plead that he is not guilty by reason of insanity, first the prosecution has to prove the case and, in fact, convict him of the crime, and then the burden shifts to the defendant to come back and say that it's because of his insanity defense that he should not spend the rest of his life in jail and go to some facility.
I've been hearing the term Slayer statute a lot since this case. Legal experts say it's California's law that would prevent Reiner from inheriting any money from his parents' estate. Talk to us about the complications that could present as this trial moves forward, Kelly.
The Slayer statute means that someone should not benefit from their crime. A lot of people are familiar with this because of the Menendez brothers, who were charged with the killing of the parents for allegedly wanting to get their inheritance, so they shouldn't benefit from killing. Now, if in fact Nick is convicted of killing his parents, then if he's in a will or a trust, the argument is that he should not benefit from that. However, in California, if in fact he's found guilty by reason of insanity, potentially there could be an argument that he could possibly inherit from his family.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.